Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 185 of the Prancing Pony podcast, where we're running as if the very whips of Sauron were behind us.
I just hope it's not a bitter end to our hope and to all our toil. But folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, who distrusts the silence and the pale moon, Alan Sisto.
Well, they are conspiring against me, Sean. I mean, come on.
That's the first step on the road to paranoia. I just felt you should know that.
Not paranoia if they're after you, Sean.
I'm not even sure if it's the first step. It might be the third or fourth step.
It might indeed. Well, folks, today we're going to be talking about the second part of the Riders of Rohan. That's Chapter 2 of Book 3 of The Lord of the Rings. Today, we finally meet said riders and their leader, Éomer.
Yay!
Yay! And I still don't have a voice for him.
Guess we'll get it figured out soon enough, won't we?
I guess so.
Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes,
and have a whole lot of fun along the way. So we're really glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, it's time for a Tolkien quote of the day.
Now, I've picked out today's Tolkien quote of the day, but I'm going to let Alan read it to you. And in order to do that, he's going to have to go back to, wait for it, letter number 131.
Letter what now?
I have no memory of that letter.
What is this thing you call 131?
I have no memory of that letter. It has actually been a while since we've talked about it, hasn't it? Like, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks or something.
It's like maybe now season 5 is really underway.
Maybe so. This is the official start to season 5.
Right.
Well, we got the Riders of Rohan. We got letter 131.
Mm-hmm.
This is a proper kickoff.
It is.
So, remember, in case you've forgotten, how could you forget, that letter number 131 was Tolkien's explanation of the story of the Silmarillion to Milton Waldman. Now, he started, just like we like to do, at the very beginning with the music of the Ainur, and the coming of the elves to Valinor, and the destruction of the two trees. Very nice. I like that.
I was just going to lay that as a music bed beneath you talking the whole time.
Okay, well, let's get back to it.
No, it's okay. We're good.
All right. And the destruction of the two trees from which were made the sun and the moon.
Uh-huh. Now, here's what Tolkien had to say about the sun specifically, and this is our quote of the day. A marked difference here between these legends and most others is that the sun is not a divine symbol, but a second best thing. And the light of the sun, the world under the sun, become terms for a fallen world and a dislocated, imperfect vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I know lots of you out there are listening and nodding your head at that, thinking, oh yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. But there are probably some of you listening out there who haven't read the Silmarillion or heard our first season and aren't too sure what he means by that. So for you folks, I'll go ahead and recap quickly.
Okay.
So if you remember the story, the Valar had brought into being two trees in Valinor. There was Laurelin the gold tree and Telperion the silver tree. And each of these trees shone with their own light. They waxed and waned, bright beyond imagining. I mean, insanely bright things that just lit the entire land behind these mountains.
Right.
that blocked the light from the rest of Middle-earth.
Mm-hmm.
Or the rest of Arda, I should say, from Middle-earth, which was the other continent in Arda. So these two trees were shining beautifully, and the elves and the Valar were enjoying it until Melkor and Ungoliant destroyed them.
That was a fun first date, man. I'm telling you.
It was a fun first date. I mean, memorable. There wasn't a second date.
No.
Still, that was a party date, man.
She wanted gems on the first date, and he was really reluctant to give them. So
with both hands, too.
Yeah.
I know. It's pretty demanding.
It is. High standards.
Very expensive meal, too.
Very one of a kind. They'll never be able to go back to that restaurant.
Not going back to that restaurant anytime soon.
No.
But as the two trees lay dying because they were eaten,
well, yeah,
the Valar brought forth one last fruit of Laurelin called Anar, which is the sun, and one last flower of Telperion called Isil, the moon.
That's right. Now, just go listen to season 1, folks. We know that's something like 50 plus episodes and, probably 90 hours. But still, go listen to it because that is the explanation for the idea that the sun is a second best thing. Yeah. Now, as incredible as the sun is, it is the tiniest living remnant of a greater light that once existed, the light of Laurelin.
And that's kind of the whole point, right? Because You look up at the sun and you think to yourself, wow, that's beautiful. Wow, that's bright. Wow, that's warm. Wow, that gives life to everything on this planet. But in the context of Tolkien's story, the sun is a constant reminder that there was once something greater than
Yes.
it, and greater than ourselves, and greater than all the beautiful things we have in this world. And that's the really cool thing about knowing that story in the Silmarillion, is that you can have that context the way certain characters within Middle-earth do. So, for example, think of a character like Legolas or Aragorn, who know their First Age mythology.
Yeah.
When they look up at the sun, they have to be thinking of the two trees, right? They have to remember that story. They have to know where that came from. And you can imagine that this is going to be a very potent reminder of Valinor.
Yeah.
And for Legolas as an elf, this is a reminder of the Undying Lands.
Something he, clearly has a longing for, right?
And that longing is going to grow stronger as the story goes on.
Yes, it will.
And then for anybody who's familiar with the lore of Middle-earth, they know about the Valar, they know about the role that they play in watching over Arda as sort of these demiurges. This great word Tolkien uses is sort of like these hands of Iluvatar, And because of that, I think that the sun is also proof of Spibimi.
Oh, certainly.
We talk about Spibimi all the time on this show, but the idea that something as beautiful as the sun could come from something as horrible as a giant spider eating the trees.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got the destruction of the trees, which is a terrible, terrible thing. And yet we end up with the sun, which brings light not just to Valinor, but to the rest of Arda. In a way, the sun is a eucatastrophe.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It brought light to the world when there wasn't light for the whole world before. They just had the stars before because all the light was hidden behind those mountains.
That's right.
So yeah, something amazing really did come out of something horrible. And you've got to imagine that characters who know that story probably think that. Maybe not every time they look up at the sun.
Well, no.
Certainly if they're anything like me, when they wake up in the morning and look at the sun for the first time, they need their coffee before they can remember their mythology.
Yeah.
But they've got to be thinking about that sometimes. And I feel like the sun must be a symbol of hope for them. And if so, it would be real hope, right? It would be Estel hope. It wouldn't be that Amdir hope that's completely random. It would be hope that's founded on something real. Hope that's founded on knowledge that the Valar are there and Iluvatar is there.
That's right.
I think that's pretty amazing.
I think that's pretty amazing indeed.
And the reason I really thought about this quote for today's episode was because of Legolas's comment that we're going to get later on. Remember that proverb that he talks about, reed oft is found at the rising of the sun. So when we get to that part later on in the chapter discussion, I want to talk about why one might find reed. What exactly is reed anyway?
Well, yeah, there's that. I'm sure other people will be wondering that. That's the $64 question tonight.
That's right. And if you don't know, we'll tell you. Don't worry. Why might one find reed at the rising of the sun? And what does that mean when you think of the sun as the second best thing? So we'll get into some of that a little bit later.
Well, yeah, and we will be talking about that in just a bit when we get there. But for now, let's go ahead and move on. We shall not turn back here, even if we are weary.
And we are weary.
That we are. And I'm going to pick up exactly where we left off last time. At dusk, they halted again. Now, twice 12 leagues they had passed over the plains of Rohan, and the wall of the Emyn Muil was lost in the shadows of the east. The young moon was glimmering in a misty sky, but it gave small light, and the stars were veiled. "Now do I most grudge a time of rest, or any halt in our chase," said Legolas. "The orcs have run before us as if the very whips of Sauron were behind them. I fear they have already reached the forest and the dark hills, and even now are passing into the shadows of the trees." Gimli ground his teeth. "This is a bitter end to our hope and to all our toil," he said. "To hope, maybe, but not to toil," said Aragorn. "We shall not turn back here, yet I am weary." He gazed back along the way that they had come, towards the night gathering in the east. "There is something strange at work in this land. I distrust the silence. I distrust even the pale moon. The stars are faint. I am weary as I have seldom been before. Weary as no ranger should be with a clear trail to follow. There is some will that lends speed to our foes and sets an unseen barrier before us. A weariness that is in the heart more than in the limb." "Truly," said Legolas, "that I have known since first we came down from the Emyn Muil. For the will is not behind us, but before us. He pointed away over the land of Rohan into the darkling west under the sickle moon. Saruman, muttered Aragorn. Oh boy. And here we go.
We're hitting the ground running. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we are. Well, quite literally running, yeah.
Quite, yeah. I'm going to pretend that I did that on purpose.
I'm going to pretend you did too, because it makes it so much more enjoyable, yes.
Very good. So, all right. It is dusk at the end of day 3. So the 3 hunters have gone another 12 leagues. That's 36 miles or 58 kilometers.
Wow, that is a long way. Yeah.
That is a long, long way, as someone will observe pretty soon here.
Mm-hmm.
The moon is still young, so that means that there's not a whole lot of light. There are only 6 days since the new moon at this point.
Okay, yeah. No wonder it's already a sickle. Well, no wonder it's a sickle moon and it's already setting in the west, even though we're barely past dusk. Yeah.
Right. So this is like a waxing crescent moon at this point. Yep.
That's correct. Of course, Legolas's comment here. I mean, he is ticked that these weak mortals needed rest. Now do I begrudge your tired, sorry butts?
Yeah. I know. And he's got that great line that...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we can all hear it from the movie, right?
Oh, of course we can. I can hear Orlando Bloom saying it. Yeah.
As if the very whips of Sauron were behind them. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And, of course, Gimli thinks, we've done all this work for nothing. There's a little bit of bitterness there, but I get it, But not Aragorn. Aragorn, no, you know what? It may be the end of their hope, which is kind of disconcerting. We don't like to see anybody lose hope, but he is making that indefinite. He's saying it may be the end of our hope. He's not saying it is. But we still have work to do regardless, which I'm sure thrills Gimli.
There is a Germanic, roll up your sleeves, get it done attitude to that, isn't there? Very Beowulf, look, we may not have any hope, but we've still got to get this thing done.
Aragorn's going to go to Home Depot.
Of course he is.
I don't think they'll pay us for that, but
Aragorn would actually be an amazing contractor because he would get your job done on time as promised.
You get the job done under budget.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely he would.
As promised. He would never be like, we got to send the crew home. They need to get some rest. No, he's going to make them work.
No, absolutely.
They're going to get that job done.
That's right. Even Gimli, the complaining subcontractor. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Gimli probably lays floor. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think.
Well, it's easier for him.
Right.
I mean, he's probably not putting up crown molding.
No. And I don't think he's a lighting guy.
No, he's not a mudder, right? Mudding over the drywall on his little stilts.
No, I don't think he's that.
No, I don't think he is either.
Definitely a floor guy. But anyway, we digress.
That we do. Legolas then? What's Legolas doing? I think he is doing the trim. I think Legolas is probably, doing the baseboards and the crown molding and doing all the, the door frames.
Well, yeah, because Legolas can do all that. He can do all that parkour stuff like he does in the movies. He can run up the railings of your stairs.
Okay. Yeah. That's true.
Get up in the rafters and everything. Oh, yeah. Legolas is like your...
Oh, maybe he's running all the cabling then for the IT connections.
He probably is. He's probably an electrician. He runs like all your network cables and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, this is going to get worse. Let's just move it on.
Call Fellowship Contracting for all your home improvement needs.
Yeah. What's Pippin do? I don't know. He's the one who has accidents.
Probably.
3 days since our last accident. Yeah, Pippin's been sick for 3 days.
And Merry just kind of stands there and tells everybody else how to do everything.
Oh, of course he does.
Maybe he's the inspector. He can quote the code.
There you go. I'm almost certain that he would know the code.
We have got to stop.
We do. That's going to be a very long night, folks. All right.
Well, back to the text.
Yes.
That's really what we're here to talk about.
Because that's a good thing. It's what we do our show about.
Yeah. Not just fan casting our next contracting project. So after advertising his new contracting business, Aragorn makes this observation that there's something strange at work here, right?
Yeah.
He says, and this is really interesting. He says, I distrust the silence. I distrust even the moon.
Mm.
And this that just makes me think of Mushu from Mulan, I have to say. The whole dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow. I distrust the silence. I distrust the moon. The stars are faint.
Oh my goodness. That's good. That's good stuff. And of course he acknowledges that he's more tired than he should be, which I'm trying to sneak in a joke about how I'm more tired than I should be, but I think that's just obvious with the fact that we've already digressed.
You're a dad. You're exactly as tired as you should be.
There you go. He's wearier than just about ever, really. I mean, certainly wearier than a ranger who's on a trail would be. I mean, this is the kind of thing that excites him. This is the thing that gets his juices flowing.
Yeah.
He should be full of energy, and he has been, clearly, because he's been running for so long.
Yeah.
And this isn't a physical fatigue. This isn't, I love this, the weariness that's in the heart more than in the limb.
Yeah.
This is about a willpower.
And this is interesting. I mean, Legolas, first of all, he concurs, right? He says, but did you guys just figure this out?
I know, seriously. I've known that for a while.
Right. I noticed it when we first came down from the hills.
Why didn't you say something?
And then he points to, apparently he can detect exactly where it's coming from. Because he can feel like it's in front of us.
Yeah, he's got some sort of radar.
Well, he feels like it's before us, right? He feels it's a force that's pushing them back as opposed to a force behind them that's pulling them.
That's a good point. And it's getting stronger, right? The closer they're getting to it, the harder it gets.
Right.
So there is this will that's helping our foes, and it's slowing us. So it is both a buff and a debuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about this in, with a big AoE too.
Yeah, totally.
AoE 50 miles.
Yeah, and that's area of effect for anybody who hasn't played.
Yeah, AoE means area of effect.
Yeah.
So how can Saruman do this, by the way? I'm just curious. You got any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, the first thing I think of is how much it reminds me of Gandalf's power to kindle hearts, right? Because Gandalf can inspire. You talk about how Aragorn should be naturally just kind of get his juices flowing by being out there on the trail, and he's kind of feeling that energy sapped. But we know Gandalf has the opposite effect on people.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder if there's some Istari power at work here. I don't know.
Maybe. Does Gandalf kindle hearts from a distance, though? I mean, that's the thing I'm wondering.
See, that's a really good point. I don't know that he can do that physically to actually kindle hearts with this AoE effect you're talking about.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what this is.
Could this be maybe enhanced through, well, I don't think the Palantir is anything that would enhance his power. So that's not really an option.
No, and I think it enhances communication, but not power.
Maybe it is line of sight, and so as long as he's up at the top of the tower, he does have a bigger range.
I don't know.
It is interesting. That's something to look into.
Or maybe something about when a wizard settles down in a place, and maybe some part of his Maya nature goes into the land, right?
Could be, yeah.
We know that Maiar like Melian can do this.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And we wouldn't see that with Gandalf because he doesn't settle down.
That's right.
So we wouldn't see a converse effect, right?
Right.
Everything around Gandalf's house is bright and cheery and happy.
Right.
Because he never really settles down. So, yeah, maybe.
And we don't really know enough about Radagast's house in Roscabel. I mean, we know...
No, we know nothing about it. Contrary to cinematic implications otherwise.
That's true. So much of what I think of comes from the cinematic adaptation, which...
Roscabel rabbits. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's something like that, but it's definitely a very interesting effect.
I think I lean towards the idea like a Melian thing. He settles down and he's got some power and he's able to sort of put that into the land in a way that, subtly harms or pushes against his foes and helps his allies. That's interesting.
And obviously it's potent because Legolas sees exactly where it's coming from. I mean, he points straight to Isengard and says, right, that's where it's coming from. And
he's felt it get stronger ever since they've come down from the Emyn Muil. I mean, this is serious stuff. That's a big distance.
Yeah.
From Isengard all the way to the wall. That's a big distance.
Yep.
But Aragorn, I didn't read this, but here's the thing. He's not going to stop us. We are not going to succumb to that, but we do have to rest because look, the moon is going down. And it's going into cloud right now anyway. So we're not going to be able to see anything. So we're going to go ahead and rest for now. And once there's daylight, we'll move again the next time.
Right.
And that's where you're going to pick up.
Okay. As before, Legolas was first afoot, if indeed he had ever slept. Awake! Awake! He cried. It is a red dawn. Strange things await us by the eaves of the forest. Good or evil I do not know, but we are called. Awake! The others sprang up, and almost at once they set off again. Slowly the downs drew near. It was still an hour before noon when they reached them, green slopes rising to bare ridges that ran in a line straight towards the north. At their feet the ground was dry and the turf short, but a long strip of sunken land some 10 miles wide lay between them and the river wandering deep in dim thickets of reed and rush. Just to the west of the southernmost slope there was a great ring, where the turf had been torn and beaten by many trampling feet. From it the Orc trail ran out again, turning north along the dry skirts of the hills. Aragorn halted and examined the tracks closely. They rested here a while, he said. but even the outward trail is already old. I fear that your heart spoke truly, Legolas. It is thrice 12 hours, I guess, since the orcs stood where we now stand. If they held to their pace, then at sundown yesterday they would reach the borders of Fangorn.
Oh, man. So, for those keeping score, Legolas wakes them up, and it's the morning of February 29th. Keep in mind that every one of their months has 30 days rather than our unusual 28-day February, so it's not a leap year.
Right.
As we'll find out, because tomorrow is February 30th. But this is a red dawn. Strange things await, he says. We are called. Destiny, fate.
What do you make of that? Yeah, fate. That makes sense.
Well, he'd be more tuned into the music than Aragorn or Gimli in the sense that, it does sort of call to him. It is what's going to happen for him is more fated than for Aragorn or Gimli. So I think it makes sense that he would be a little more attuned.
He sort of awakens with a sense of purpose, and he says, okay, this is... He may not be able to articulate, this is what I'm going to do today, but he feels a compulsion to get up and go do what needs to be done today.
And he even acknowledges that, good or evil, I don't know. I don't know what's going to wait us there,
Right.
but that's where we've got to go, and we are called. So time to get your lazy butts up, he says. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an Elvish way of saying that, which is a lot nicer than the human way of saying it. Yeah.
I know. Get your backside out of bed. Come on, time to get up.
They're so kind when they wake you up and tell you to get up and let's go right now.
Right now. And by the way, you guys couldn't figure out that there was something, opposing us this whole time?
What is wrong with you?
Seriously. Yeah. And you need rest? So he may be nice, but he's still the typical condescending elf.
He's still an elf.
Yeah.
He's going to insult you, but he's going to do it in language you can barely understand.
Right.
Yeah. So, a bit like Bilbo at the party. Anyway.
Oh, man.
So they do wake up. Obviously, they get the message. And they set off pretty much right away.
Yeah.
And as they go, they're drawing nearer to the downs. They reach them at 11 o'clock a.m., right?
Right.
An hour before noon.
Hour before noon. Mm-hmm.
And then Aragorn discovers the orc camp and the trail.
Yeah. And that's when he notices, it's been 36 hours since the orcs were here. And that's backed up by the scheme, as Hammond and Skull point out. Tolkien's scheme says that the orcs were here at 9 p.m. 2 days previous. So that's actually been 38 hours, awfully close.
Close enough, yeah.
Close enough. Good enough for government work, as we say.
That's right. And he also says that it would have been sundown yesterday. So that would have been, dusk on February 28th that they reached Fangorn. And we will find out later in this chapter from Éomer that Aragorn is exactly right. He's got those ranger skills. He knows what he's talking about. Yes,
he does. Now, later, after the part you read, Gimli wonders if we could spot the forest from the top of the hills. Aragorn, the hills run for another 24 miles, so that's another 40 kilometers or so. And then it's another 45 miles, which is 72 kilometers. I'm going to try to remember to do that, by the way, folks. That's a new thing. But as I was preparing for this chapter, I know we've been talked to, brought to task by a few people who've reminded us of our barbarian imperial ways in terms of measurements, and that we need to speak in ways that are a little more understandable to the rest of the world. So we will try, folks.
And you know what? That's totally fair. I mean,
it's totally fair.
We are but humble Americans, and we do use this barbaric system of measurement based on some ancient king's foot. But,
it's what we know.
It's what we know.
Yeah, it's basically 40 kilometers to the end of the hills and then over 70 kilometers to the northwest from there to get to the forest. So we're talking, 70 miles and somewhere in the neighborhood of 110 kilometers before we get there. It's a long, long way.
Yeah, it is.
Which, of course, does not thrill Gimli.
No.
All right, let's do this,
Yeah.
His little sad response is, my legs would be more willing if my heart were less heavy. He really does worry for the hobbits, of course.
He is. He is very worried for the hobbits. And remember that there's a supernatural effect that's sapping their will, too.
That is true. The legs are not affected, but the heart is, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's just enhancing that heart heaviness that's already there. I think you're absolutely right. I think he's sad and he's worried for his friends.
Yeah, he's concerned they're gone. And I can't blame him for thinking that.
Yep.
So, well, before we get to the end of the downs, we want to remind you to visit our website, theprancingponypodcast.com, as we've made a few improvements there recently.
Yeah, we still have all the good stuff there. We've got show notes and outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, and also our online storefront where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
And one of the best resources we have, of course, is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, art and movies and all kinds of things, but at heart, Alan and I are ultimately fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien. That's why we have the library page, with links to every book we've mentioned on the show.
Now, of course, we do make a few pennies from the purchases you make from those links, so thank you for your support. Now it's time to keep marching without rest, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up a little bit after you stopped.
All right.
At the end of the downs. The sun was sinking when at last they drew near to the end of the line of downs. For many hours they had marched without rest. They were going slowly now, and Gimli's back was bent. Stone hard are the dwarves in labor or journey, but this endless chase began to tell on him as all hope failed in his heart. Aragorn walked behind him, grim and silent, stooping now and again to scan some print or mark upon the ground. Only Legolas still stepped as lightly as ever, his feet hardly seeming to press the grass, leaving no footprints as he passed. But in the waybread of the elves he found all the sustenance that he needed, and he could sleep, if sleep could be called by men, resting his mind in the strange paths of elvish dreams, even as he walked open-eyed in the light of this world. "Let us go up onto this green hill," he said. Wearily they followed him, climbing the long slope until they came out upon the top. It was a round hill, smooth and bare, standing by itself, the most northerly of the downs. The sun sank, and the shadows of evening fell like a curtain. They were alone in a gray, formless world without mark or measure. Only far away northwest there was a deeper darkness against the dying light, the mountains of mist and the forest at their feet. "Nothing can we see to guide us here," said Gimli. "Well, now we must halt again and wear the night away. It is growing cold." "The wind is north from the snows," said Aragorn. "And ere morning it will be in the east," said Legolas. "But rest if you must, yet do not cast all hope away. Tomorrow is unknown. Reed oft is found at the rising of the sun." "3 suns already have risen on our chase and brought no counsel," said Gimli. Can't blame him for thinking that.
No.
But let's get back to the start of that passage, shall we?
All right. Yeah, so it's slower going now, and they're marching without rest to the end of the downs. Gimli, obviously feeling it every bit of the way. His back is bent, and, once again, his heart is without hope.
He's lost all hope. You know how Aragorn earlier had said, it may be the end of our hope?
Oh, yeah.
For Gimli, he's lost it, yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Hope failed in his heart. Aragorn's just kind of getting the job done. He's grim, he's silent, he's looking around for signs on the ground, just doing the ranger thing, right?
Just doing the ranger thing, that's right. And Legolas, of course, seems unchanged. And interestingly, he leaves no footprints as he passes. Is there anything to talk about there? Because it's the same thing with the snow, right? Remember on Caradhras?
Yeah, I do remember that. It was that whole thing about let a plowman plow, but for running light over
and
grass
chasing the sun. And yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Basically choose an elf for running light over grass or leaf or snow. It just seems to be something elves do, right? Elves, they're light on their feet. They're nimble.
Violate the laws of physics.
That's right. They do sweet parkour moves.
They do.
They can run cable through your ceiling like nobody's business, folks. Call Fellowship Contracting.
That's right. They can, real quick, they'll wire your house in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. They get it done.
And then there's this bit about sleeping while he walked. Now, here's the thing. That is a big topic, and we are going to cover elvish sleep more in a couple of weeks. At the end of this chapter, we'll see another really elvish moment, and we thought that would be a good time for a sidebar. So we'll get back to that.
I am looking forward to that because elvish sleep is one of those things that it's one of those topics that's just constantly brought up on all the boards, all the groups.
Yeah.
People are always talking about elvish sleep, and I think it's going to be a fun one to dive into.
It is going to be a fun one. I'm sure that we will probably have people who have more advanced theories than ours, but it'll be a good conversation starter at the least. Promise you that.
But whether he was sleeping when he said this or not, I don't know. But he does urge his friends to go on up to the top of this green hill, right?
Yeah.
And so they do. It's actually the most northerly of these downs.
Right.
It's smooth and bare, standing by itself.
Yeah, and the sun goes down. The world is gray. It makes me feel a little bit, just a little, because there's no fog description here, but it makes me feel a little bit like we did on the Barrow Downs, where they just felt like there was nothing else around. They were this formless world.
Yeah, I get that. I can totally see that. Yeah,
Just a similar sense. Yeah, not quite as creepy, of course. We don't get the cold stone. We don't get all of the odd,
right.
Weirdness of the Barrow Downs, but that same sort of isolated feel. Yeah.
Yeah. And this word formless, I think, is really powerful. It's this idea that you just can't make out anything.
Your eyes don't lock on any definite form, on any shape. Yeah. Which makes it really hard to get your bearings. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So you might as well just sort of be lost in space,
Yeah. In a way you are. Right. And the only thing they can pick out really is the fact that there's a deeper darkness amidst the darkness at the foot of the mountains where the forest is. So clearly with nothing to see, they need to stop. So they're going to rest here for the cold night. And part of the reason it's cold is because they decided to rest on the top of the hill. I don't know why they don't go down the slope just a little bit where it might be a little less cold.
I wonder. I don't know.
Because you got the wind coming from the north. Well, then maybe go to the southern slope.
Yeah. But Legolas, he's really going to cowboy through this. He's like, well, rest if you must, I'm good. You guys
That's
rest.
Right.
I'm totally good.
I'll make you breakfast too while I'm at it.
That's right.
I'm an elf.
That's
I don't need
right.
to sleep.
And then he comes out with this great proverb, which I alluded to at the beginning of the episode. Reed oft is found at the rising of the sun.
Yes.
Now, I promised to talk about this. Reed, this interesting word reed, R-E-D-E, is an archaic English word for counsel or advice. Now, interestingly, it's actually the origin of our modern verb to read. But
oh, really? Even I didn't. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Later on, the word changed meaning to, looking at writing on paper and understanding what it means. But it did originally just mean counsel or advice. But so what Legolas is saying here is that counsel is often found in the morning. And I want your thoughts on this, Alan. I'm curious if you have any ideas why this would be a proverb. Are there any reasons why good counsel is more often found in the morning? I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is, when you're making a big decision, one of the things you always say is, let's sleep on it, right?
Exactly. And there's a reason for that. At the end of the day, you're exhausted. You've got 1,000 things on your mind. The CPU is fried. You got to pull up the task list and end process on about 100 different things. And that's what sleep will do for you. You wake up in the morning and it's like you just
you're refreshed.
Yeah, exactly.
You can make better decisions.
Absolutely.
Once you've had some coffee, probably.
Well, yeah, maybe. But yeah, I think that's always good advice. Don't make a decision at 12:30 at night that's going to affect you for the next anything more than the next hour. Frankly, the only decision you should make at that point is maybe
what time to go to bed.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
That's about it. Everything else can wait, and it should wait because there's no point in deciding at that hour. You can decide in the morning when you're fresh. So yes, certainly that freshness. I think it also doesn't just bring you a physical freshness; it brings you a perspective freshness.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, just because your mind is clear and I think you're able to process better. So that makes enough sense.
The outside things that are pressing on you don't feel necessarily as overwhelming first thing in the morning.
Yeah, that makes me think of the what is it? The Hour of the Wolf from Babylon 5.
Yes,
remember that?
From Bab 5, Ivanova. Yeah,
from 3 to 4 in the morning when
yes,
everything that's stressing you out just feels that much worse. Everything that's scaring you.
Oh, terrifying time if you're awake. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really solid answer for this proverb. I do still think there might be something else to it too. Just the idea
think so too, especially here in Middle Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that in general, look, the light makes us less fearful.
Yep.
And when you can see clearly,
I can see clearly now. The dark has gone.
There you go. I think when we're afraid, we make bad decisions when we're afraid, don't we? And I think that if you've got a clear day, you can see, you've got sunlight. I don't know. I think I would make better decisions in the light of day than in the dark of night. Because again, it's not just about your mental weariness, but I think just sort of the lack of fear that comes from having a bright day, a bright sun shining in the sky.
Yeah.
And I think back to what we talked about in the intro when we talked about the sun being a second best thing to the light of Valinor. And I wonder if maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know. I like it anyway.
if we're going to tend to read stuff into it, yeah, you're going to be the one who's going to read a little bit more into it. But I like that when that happens because it makes me see things in a new light. So go ahead, read more into it than you should.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad you like that. I
do.
do think about this in the context of that second best thing because, again, the sun is a reminder of the light of Valinor. The sun is a Spabimi. It's a eucatastrophe.
It's a reminder of Iluvatar. It's so many things, yeah.
It's a reminder of Estel. And I think that if you have that hope and if you have that knowledge of what the sun is, I think you might be inclined to make better decisions. Because again, it's about that lack of fear. It's about hope instead of fear. And I think that you might be inclined to make better decisions just based on that.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. It's something I was thinking of when I was reading this. And again, that's why I brought that quote in at the beginning.
No, I'm glad you did.
I think it's a super cool proverb regardless. And I think there's a lot there.
By the way, a shout out to, because we've sung I Can See Clearly now on 2 or 3 recent episodes. Recently, Johnny Nash, the man who wrote that song, passed away earlier this month. So just a shout out to him and another great songwriter who, boy, this year has cost us a lot in terms of music. That's for sure.
Oh man, you're not kidding. You're not kidding. And thank you for that. I had forgotten about that news.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So let's move on to the next reading. That's yours. The Riders Are Coming.
Oh yeah, they are.
Oh, this is good. We're getting there. I'm so excited.
How long have we waited for these guys?
Almost 5 years.
Pretty much.
We started in February, right? Of
Pretty
2016.
much.
Speaking of which, by the way, I can't even begin to fathom the fact that in just a couple of months we'll be celebrating our 5th anniversary on the show.
Wow. Yeah.
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, this is our 5th season, and our
I
first
know.
season was a long one.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. 5 years of doing this show, man. No, it's been a ride, man. I've enjoyed it.
By that point, we'll almost be at episode 200. I think it'll be 198 that'll release on our 5th anniversary.
Excellent.
So awfully close.
Cool. All right. Well, let's read. Let's get these riders in here.
Yeah. Please do.
Ahead and eastward, they saw the windy uplands of the wold of Rohan that they had already glimpsed many days ago from the great river. Northwestward stalked the dark forest of Fangorn. Still 10 leagues away stood its shadowy eaves, and its further slopes faded into the distant blue. Beyond there glimmered far away, as if floating on a gray cloud, the white head of tall Methydras, the last peak of the Misty Mountains. Out of the forest the Entwash flowed to meet them, its stream now swift and narrow, and its banks deep cloven. The Orc trail turned from the downs towards it. Following with his keen eyes the trail to the river, and then the river back towards the forest, Aragorn saw a shadow on the distant green, a dark, swift-moving blur. He cast himself upon the ground and listened again intently. But Legolas stood beside him, shading his bright elven eyes with his long slender hand, and he saw not a shadow nor a blur, but the small figures of horsemen, many horsemen, and the glint of morning on the tips of their spears was like the twinkle of minute stars beyond the edge of mortal sight. Far behind them a dark smoke rose in thin, curling threads. There was a silence in the empty fields, and Gimli could hear the air moving in the grass. "Riders!" cried Aragorn, springing to his feet. "Many riders on swift steeds are coming towards us." "Yes," said Legolas. "There are 105. Yellow is their hair, and bright are their spears. Their leader is very tall." Aragorn smiled. "Keen are the eyes of the elves," he said. "Nay, the riders are little more than 5 leagues distant," said Legolas. 5 leagues or 1, said Gimli. "We cannot escape them in this bare land. Shall we wait for them here, or go on our way?" "We will wait," said Aragorn. "I am weary, and our hunt has failed. Or at least others were before us, for these horsemen are riding back down the Orc trail. We may get news from them." "Or spears," said Gimli. "There are 3 empty saddles, but I see no hobbits," said Legolas. "I did not say that we should hear good news," said Aragorn. "But evil or good, we will await it here."
Fair enough. Oh, boy. Lots to talk about.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm looking at our outline going, wow, this is a really long discussion point with a couple of sidebars and everything.
Yep.
So much.
Let's do it.
So we always say there's a lot to unpack, but this time we really, really mean it.
Oh, yeah.
So we start out, of course, they sleep but not well in the passage before you read. Legolas doesn't speak but walks and sings to himself. And then it's sunrise, and now it's February 30th. pale and clear with the wind from the east, like Legolas had said. And then what do they see?
Well, they see these uplands, right? The uplands of the wold of Rohan. Now, for those who may not remember, a wold is a piece of high, open, uncultivated land, or a moor. Pretty common English term.
Mm-hmm.
And they see Fangorn to the northwest. It's about 10 leagues, so that's 30 miles distant, and that's 48 kilometers.
Somewhere there, yeah.
Trying to do that, too. And then they see the forest slopes up to the mountains.
That's right, including the mountain Methedris, which is a little punning, actually, because that means last peak. So,
there you go.
It's the last peak of the Misty Mountains. It's the Methedris of the Misty Mountains. Yeah,
there you go.
It is what it says on the tin right there.
And it's also your last peak of the Misty Mountains.
Oh yes, yes it is.
That was kind of a dad joke, but
that's a real dad joke.
Yeah, sorry.
Real dad joke.
I'll do penance in the bad pun room.
Oh goodness,
I'm sure the professor's there already.
Yeah, he's still spending quite a bit of time there.
Yeah.
So we get the Entwash in a deep channel. So of course it's now moving swifter as you get when it's in a deep channel. Aragorn follows the trail to the river and then the river to the forest, and that's when he sees the dark, swift-moving blur. Now, it's not a blur to everybody here, but it's a dark, swift-moving blur to him, and he drops to the ground.
Yeah. He does that thing again where he drops to the ground and he listens, right? We saw this in just the last episode.
Yeah, we talked about, putting your ear to the ground to see if you could hear anything. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But Legolas, though, doesn't need to use his ears.
No.
He's standing. He looks closely, and dude, when Legolas looks closely, he looks closely.
He looks really closely.
He sees horses and spears.
Yeah. Aragorn announces it before Legolas can get into more detail. He says, look, we've got riders, and they are coming fast.
And then Legolas.
I know. Oh, my gosh, Legolas.
This guy, okay. I know we're going to get into this in just a moment. But
We will, yeah.
Not only does he see that there are 105.
I'm sorry. All I can think of is Rain Man. All I can 105 riders. There are 105 riders, Aragorn.
I mean, that's solid. That's a solid one. I'm thinking of C-3PO because he announces this in like the most.
Yes.
Got a 105 to be precise.
Yeah. The odds are 163,712 to 1.
Right, and you could just see Gimli next to him, like, never tell me how many riders there are.
Yeah, he's rolling his eyes. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, although, of course, we know Gimli is the R2-D2 to Legolas' C-3PO.
Oh, that's terrible. Oh, my God, I'll never be able to unsee that, Sean.
Didn't we talk about that one last time? I feel like we did.
I think we've talked about that before, but yeah, in the Halloween.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of just in the Halloween context. Now I'm thinking about them, traversing the fields of Rohan as C-3PO and R2-D2.
We seem to be made to suffer. It's our lot in life.
Boop, 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 boop.
Don't get technical with me. You'll be malfunctioning in a day.
That's right.
What I love about this is not only that he sees so much detail, but yes, he just announces it in like the most protocol droidy way possible. Just like
protocol droidy.
Well,
and
actually,
he counts them really fast. How did he count them so quickly?
Not only did he see them, but he counted them really fast.
I mean, and they're moving. I don't know about you, but it's pretty hard to count. I mean, it would be one thing if they were like in 10 lines of 10 and a line of 5. And, you were able to just count the grid and multiply. But they're a riding swarm of horses. They're not riding in a grid.
I have chaperoned a kindergarten field trip before, and I can't even count how many kids there are in
and there's
classroom.
Probably not 105.
No, right, no.
I mean, no. Thank God there's not 105. You're going to lose your mind. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so it's just amazing. It's such a great Legolas moment.
It really is.
You can keep your parkour. You can keep your running lightly. This right here, this is what I came to see when it comes to this is the elf superpower.
Oh, and they're blonde and their leader's tall.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because 105 isn't fancy enough. In case that doesn't impress you guys, here's some more.
I'm surprised he didn't say how tall he is.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think he's about.
Well, I can tell from here that he's about 6'7".
So of course Aragorn comments on his keen eyes. No, they're only 15 miles away. Nothing special.
Yeah.
What?
Right. Yeah. Just 15 miles away.
That's 24 kilometers. I'm sorry. That's
right.
a very, very long way. Yeah.
What? You can't see that far away? You can't feel the supernatural force that's pushing on us?
Oh, no.
Man. All right. So Gimli, though, is like, look, it doesn't matter how far away they are. We can't hide. They're going to be here soon.
I mean, maybe I can hide because this is tall grass, but y'all can't hide.
True. Bare land, there's nothing to hide behind.
That's
so
true.
What are we going to do? Are we going to wait for them here, or are we going to keep moving?
Aragorn's, well, look, they're going to get here. Might as well take a chance to rest. We'll just wait.
Yeah.
And then we get another observation, just in case Legolas hasn't shown off enough. He observes that there are 3 empty saddles. But, I've scanned the entire 105 people, but none of them are hobbits.
He can probably count the stitches on the saddles.
Yeah. He's got the front license plates of all of those horses.
He just doesn't want to freak his friends out, so he's not going that far. But
no.
Anyway. All right. Well, in case you haven't guessed, folks, we are going to do a sidebar on Elvish eyesight. I think we've telegraphed that enough by now. So yeah, this is one of those questions that doesn't really have an answer. But we've had Tanya, one of our research assistants, dig into the Legendarium to see what she could find. And first up, we've got lots of great Legolas moments of just amazing Elvish eyesight.
Yeah.
Now, when he saw the eagle earlier and Aragorn noted, "No, not even my eyes can see him."
Right.
That was one. Not long ago, Gimli said something to the effect of, "Even Legolas on a hilltop could not see them till the sun is up."
Right. He does need light to see. He doesn't have infravision as well as super duper telescopic vision.
Right. And of course, it's, somebody's going to tell us it's all dark vision now in D&D.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm old.
Yeah. That's all right. I am too. I still think in infravision.
Yeah.
And then when I played EverQuest, there was ultravision. Dark elves had ultravision. So sometimes there's that one too.
Because infravision was copyrighted.
Well, no, other races had infravision, but dark elves had ultravision for some reason.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I don't know why.
I was thinking it was one of those things. It's the same reason why the hobbits are called halflings.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they had infravision too. But anyway, we digress.
We do.
And now coming up in the chapter Helm's Deep, we're going to see a moment when Gandalf actually drops back to Legolas during the ride and says, "You have the keen eyes of your fair kindred, Legolas, and they can tell a sparrow from a finch a league off.
Wow.
Tell me, can you see anything away yonder toward Isengard?" And when Legolas can't see anything away yonder, it's not because of his vision, it's because of a veiling shadow that some power lays upon the land.
Telling a sparrow from a finch 3 miles away. That's
I'm telling you.
awfully darn impressive, I have to say.
He can count the stitches on these saddles. He could probably read the tattoos on some of the riders.
Who needs a GPS satellite when you've got this guy? Just get him on a tall mountain and he can just scan the whole area.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of which, most famous and perhaps most troubling really when it comes to figuring this out is this line from the King of the Golden Hall. The others too now turned their eyes eastward. Over the sundering leagues of land, far away they gazed to the edge of sight, and hope and fear bore their thoughts still on, beyond dark mountains to the land of shadow. Where now was the ring-bearer? How thin indeed was the thread upon which doom still hung. It seemed to Legolas, as he strained his far-seeing eyes, that he caught a glint of white. Far away, perchance, the sun twinkled on a pinnacle of the Tower of Guard. And further still, endlessly remote and yet a present threat, there was a tiny tongue of flame. Well, we'll talk about that. As Hammond and Skull note in the Reader's Companion, if Legolas could really see some 300 miles to Minas Tirith as the crow flies, and over 370 miles to Mount Doom,
wow,
Elvish sight was certainly far superior to that of humans. Yeah, we're going to come back to this one.
I think we have to. Yeah. I know we've got some thoughts on that.
I think we do. But Legolas isn't just some superhero with powerful vision. He's merely an elf, and this is frankly a common trait. Fingon is said to have looked eastwards, seeking if he might see with elven sight the dust of Anfauglith rising beneath the hosts of Mithras.
That's right.
And then there were some elves on Toloressia that really had great vision. The far-sighted among the elves that dwelt in the Lonely Isle would see her, talking about Elwing, like a white bird shining rose-stained in the sunset as she soared in joy to greet the coming of Vingalot to Haven. That's pretty amazing because Vingalot was in space.
Yeah. Yep.
And then in the story of Tuor, in Unfinished Tales, Voronway constantly is amazed at the short sight of mortal man. What, you can't see that? What do you mean you can't see that? I mean, there's like 3 or 4 occasions where he's like stunned that Tuor can't see that.
Right.
In Beleg, we get this little thing that he was said to be as far-sighted in mind as in eye.
Yeah. And then there's this really amazing thing from the Quendian Eldar essay in The War of the Jewels. That's History of Middle-earth, Volume 11. In that, we learn that the Eldar possessed a system of communication revolving around gesture signs to be used when they were not within earshot.
That's right.
And Tolkien adds that the elves had astonishingly acute eyesight at a distance.
Yeah.
Now, we don't have a direct explanation as to the mechanics of Elvish eye anatomy or why and how this all works. But Tanya did point out to us that Tolkien repeatedly made the point that elves' bodies are just better in general in lots of ways.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's partly because they're intended to last so much longer than the bodies of men.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's worth pointing out that this gifted eyesight wasn't universal among elves. I mean, maybe all elves were better than all men. Maybe the baseline elf eyesight was better than baseline man eyesight. But some elves were clearly more gifted than others. And like we saw with those elves who could see Elwing, those far-sighted ones, that was only the far-sighted among them.
That's true.
And what's interesting about that is it doesn't seem associated with which kindred the elf belongs to either. It just seems to be...
that's true.
It just seems to be like a some have it, some don't kind of thing. It's just kind of a gift that they're born with.
Right.
So as for Legolas, we don't really have a standard by which to measure him. Obviously, he's surrounded by, a man and a dwarf and, just he's surrounded by all these non-elves.
We have no other elves to compare him to. Yeah.
Exactly, right. So he has amazing eyesight compared to these guys, to be sure. But we don't know if his eyes are up to the see Elwing from Tolaresia standard or not.
No, that's a very good point. But I have to say that either Tolkien or Legolas was playing with us a bit back on that part about seeing Minas Tirith and Mount Doom from Edoras. Look, I don't want to destroy a fantasy book with physics, but Tolkien keeps that inconsistency of reality, and we want to be accurate here. This is the Third Age, so Arda by this point is curved, okay?
Right.
Unless it's a very, very large ball, right? We're assuming that Arda is curved and is actually Earth, right? Because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
So if it's the same size as our current Earth, let's talk about the curvature of the Earth. The distance from Edoras to Minas Tirith is 300 miles. That's just shy of 500 kilometers.
Okay.
Calculating how much drop in the curvature of the Earth over that distance is pretty straightforward. I'm not going to go into all the math, but trust me that I've done it. And it's really astounding how much drop there is over that distance. It's just shy of 60,000 feet. In other words, Legolas would need to be standing on a mountain twice as tall as Mount Everest and have his incredible vision just to see Minas Tirith. Mount Doom, try 91,000 feet of height difference because of the curvature of the Earth. So he's in freaking orbit.
As much as I want to say, keep your physics and your geometry out of my fantasy book, that is a really cool analysis. I'm glad you did that.
Oh, thank you. It was a fun one to do. Yeah.
I can see the diagram of, the round Earth.
Yeah, you're measuring a straight line, and then you're measuring the distance from the end of that straight line to the surface of the circle. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you got Jeff Goldblum talking about Legolas using the satellites to bounce the signal off of each other.
That's right. That's right.
From Independence Day. You're talking about line of sight.
Oh, my goodness. And then infect the alien ship with the virus that undoubtedly uses the exact same code and runs on the exact same OS that your systems do.
Right, yeah. That movie was scientifically accurate enough to think about line of sight, but not to think about the fact that the alien ship wouldn't run on Windows 95.
No, well, except that when you notice he's uploading the virus, it's a Mac OS.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Which is even less likely.
Right, exactly. Those aliens can't afford Apple. Come on. Where are they going to get Apple hardware?
Seriously. Oh, man. Well, I have to say that it is much more believable that Legolas can see the company of orcs from 36 miles away. That's very believable because he'd only have to be on a hill that's about 865 feet above the plain, right?
Okay.
280 meters or something like that.
That works, yeah.
So a sizable hill, but definitely within the realm of we can climb that.
Yeah.
Whatever we decide, though, about this and how realistic it is or how much it works, I would make sure to keep my credit card number hidden if Legolas is even in the same hemisphere.
I think that would be wise.
Use 2FA on everything, man. He can see it all.
Totally.
Yeah.
It just feels creepy, man. You never know if Legolas is watching you.
And if he's watching you, you could be a couple miles away and he's still going to know everything you've done.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's always watching you.
That's right. You get no privacy.
That's right.
So anyway, well, Tolkien's scheme tells us that the riders leave the battlefield and start out on long ride to Edoras at sunrise, 7 a.m. And at sunrise, Aragorn sees cold, clear day open. About 9 a.m., the riders approach. They're actually going to meet at 10 a.m., so that's what time we're looking at here.
Fair enough. So they're going to meet in about an hour, which is fair because they're 15 miles away. So they're not galloping, but they are running pretty solidly, 15 miles an hour. Yeah. Okay. So the guys head down the hill and they wait at the foot, huddled together, and that's where I'm going to pick up.
All right.
Well, not exactly there. I'm going to pick up a paragraph later, but close enough. We have to skip stuff, folks. We can't read the whole chapter.
We have to skip a couple of things, and
yeah, it's getting less and less, to be fair.
It is.
All right. So Gimli. What do you know of these horsemen, Aragorn? He said. Do we sit here waiting for sudden death? I have been among them, answered Aragorn. They are proud and willful, but they are true-hearted, generous in thought and deed, bold but not cruel, wise but unlearned, writing no books, but singing many songs after the manner of the children of men before the dark years. But I do not know what has happened here of late, nor in what mind the Rohirrim may now be between the traitor Saruman and the threat of Sauron. They have long been the friends of the people of Gondor, though they are not akin to them. It was in forgotten years long ago that Éored the Young brought them out of the north, and their kinship is rather with the Bardings of Dale and with the Beornings of the wood, among whom may still be seen many men tall and fair, as are the riders of Rohan. At least they will not love the orcs. But Gandalf spoke of a rumor that they pay tribute to Mordor, said Gimli. I believe it no more than did Boromir, answered Aragorn. You will soon learn the truth, said Legolas. Already they approach. Aha!
All right.
They are coming.
Here they come. And Gimli, little uneasy, asking the obvious question, are we just waiting here to die?
Yeah, there's 105 of them with spears and horses. I mean, it's not going to take long to just run us over. Yeah.
Right. And so Aragorn tells them what he knows about them, right? He gives us this great description because he knows them well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. In fact, he's been among them. If we fast forward to Appendix A5, the tale of Aragorn and Arwen, we learn that he went in many guises and won renown under many names. He rode in the host of the Rohirrim. And then if we go to Appendix B, the tale of years, that tells us that between the years 2957 to 2980, Aragorn undertakes his great journeys and errantries. As Thorongil, he serves in disguise both Thengel of Rohan and Ecthelion II of Gondor.
That's right.
He's definitely been among them.
He has fought alongside these guys.
Yes, he has. And so he gives some really good insight, right? They're proud, they're willful, but they're true-hearted. Mm-hmm. They're bold, but they're not cruel. And in fact, they're generous. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I love this. They're wise, but they're not educated.
Oh, I know. I love that.
That's super cool. They're singers, not writers.
Mm-hmm.
But then he says, he's not really sure how they are now. Things might have changed because of Saruman. It has been a while.
Yeah.
So things might have changed because of Saruman. But then he talks about their history a little bit, right? He mentions the history of Éored, the fact that they have kinship with the Bardings and the Beornings.
That's right.
And that, look, they're not going to love the orcs. And
no
way they're paying that tribute of horses. Gwaihir didn't know what he was talking about when he spread that rumor.
No. Yeah, it's fake news.
Yes, it is fake news.
And then Legolas, of course, says, look, whoever they are, we're going to find out all about them real soon. Yeah. They're about to show up. But before they do, I want to do a little sidebar on the establishment of Rohan. This is a great opportunity, as Aragorn touched on the history there of Éored the Young.
Because, folks, we're not going to let Aragorn's explanation stand on its own, right? We're going to dig deeper.
Never. We're going to go a lot deeper than Aragorn.
We're going to give the Prancing Pony podcast treatment. Yeah.
We're going to give this the full Prancing Pony podcast treatment.
There you go.
So, we read a big chunk of their history on Tolkien Reading Day 2019 in episode 118. So, if you want a long set of readings, head there. It's great. Today, we'll explore their history, where they came from, how they become the Rohirrim, and how they came to live in the land that they possess here at the end of the Third Age. and of course how they became allied with Gondor. Now, all of this comes from Unfinished Tales, so let me explain. No, that is too much. Let me sum up.
Well done.
Otherwise, we're going to be here all night. The éored were a remnant of great horse breeders and riders. These were the Northmen of Rhovanion who had lived on the wide plains between Mirkwood and the River Running. Now, they were very distant kinsmen of the Númenóreans.
Mm-hmm.
Very distant. They were descendants of the Edain who did not go to Beleriand, and so were not rewarded with the island of Númenor. So
right.
When I say kin to the Númenóreans, they were kin to the people that the Númenóreans came from, really would be a better way of putting it. Distant.
These weren't Edain who didn't go to Númenor at the end of the First Age.
No.
These were Edain who did not go all the way to Beleriand in the First Age.
That's right, who didn't cross over into the west at all. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, the thing is, Gondor wasn't always aware of this, but these Northmen had long protected the north and eastern frontiers of Gondor from invasion. In the winter of 1635, the Northmen of Rhovanion, they succumbed to the Great Plague and they lost about half their people and horses. They were weakened as a result. And that's when the Wainriders' first invasions came into the region. That scattered the Northmen, and there were several who followed Marhwini, son of Marhari, and they settled between Mirkwood and the Anduin in the Vales of the Anduin, and they are the ones that established the éored.
That's right. And then around the year 1930 of the Third Age, during the days of King Calimektar of Gondor, the éored became widely known by this name, éored.
Yeah.
And it was Marhwini that you were just talking about, and I have to point out that this name is a Gothic name that means horse friend. Mm-hmm. Just have to get that out there. Marhwini came to the aid of Gondor under King Calimektar against the Wainriders, setting a precedent that would lead to a history of great friendship between the two peoples.
Absolutely.
Then in the year 1944, the men of the éored again fought alongside Gondor, now under King Andaher, Calimektar's son and successor.
Right.
And in fact, it was the leader of the éored who discovered and later revealed to Minoctar, that was the leader of Andaher's armies after his death, the death of Andaher's last living son, Faramir, not that Faramir,
right,
who had been killed after going disguised into battle, leaving Gondor without an heir to the throne.
That's right. Now, a few hundred years later, in Third Age 2509, Cirion, steward of Gondor, was desperate for help against the Balchath and called upon the éored. He sent 3 pairs of messengers to complete that dangerous journey to the leader Eorl, about 800 miles from Minas Tirith. Now, only one messenger, Borondir, survived the journey. After much thought, Eorl was determined to ride to Gondor's aid, and with Borondir as guide, Eorl led the horsemen of the north to the field of Celebrant. His éoher, some 7,000 armed riders and hundreds of mounted archers, shifted the battle's tides and drove the invaders over the plains of Calenarthon.
And then after the battle was ended, Cirion gave Eorl the land of Calenarthon as a reward. Mm-hmm. He gifted the realm to Eorl at the site of the tomb of Elendil on Amon Anwar, or Halathirion, which means the Holy Mountain in Rohirric, or Old English for those of you following along at home.
Well, right, exactly. Yeah.
This hilltop had actually been the center of Gondor's realm, but would now be the location of its border with Eorl's realm of Calenarthon.
Mm-hmm.
So, doesn't that basically mean that they basically gave him half of Gondor?
Pretty much.
If it was the center?
Just about. I mean, maybe not.
Maybe not exactly, right?
Well, it was the center of the east-west line. I think there was more to it wasn't on the north-south.
Okay, that's fair. So half of the longitude, basically, in that section. Yeah, okay. Still, pretty sizable chunk.
Oh, it's a very big chunk. If you look at the map, it's a lot of land.
Yeah. And at the tomb of Elendil, Eorl swore an oath of friendship between his kingdom and Gondor. And with this oath, Eorl became the first king of the Mark, and my ancestor. Now, within his realm, Gondor retained control only of Orthanc, which held one of the Palantiri.
Right.
The Sindarin names Rohan for the land of Calenarthon, and Rohirrim for the people of that land, were established by Halas, the son and successor of Cirion. The people themselves most often referred to their land as the Mark, or the Rittermark.
Right, and themselves as the riders of the Mark.
Right.
Now, of course, we're going to see more of this alliance unfold in Book 5 as the Rohirrim, led by Theoden, ride to the aid of Gondor once more.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, and, I have to say that if you all go back to that Tolkien Reading Day episode, you will hear the longest lead-in to the worst pun ever.
Yeah.
I just want to leave that hanging right there. I'm not even going to spoil it.
No, we shouldn't.
Well, so, Sean, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the riders now, shall we?
All right. At length, even Gimli could hear the distant beat of galloping hoofs. The horsemen, following the trail, had turned from the river and were drawing near the downs. They were riding like the wind. Now the cries of clear, strong voices came ringing over the fields. Suddenly they swept up with a noise like thunder, and the foremost horseman swerved, passing by the foot of the hill, and leading the host back southward along the western skirts of the downs. After him they rode, a long line of mail-clad men, swift, shining, fell and fair to look upon. Their horses were of great stature, strong and clean-limbed. Their grey coats glistened, their long tails flowed in the wind, their manes were braided on their proud necks. The men that rode them matched them well, tall and long-limbed. Their hair, flaxen pale, flowed under their light helms and streamed in long braids behind them. Their faces were stern and keen. In their hands were tall spears of ash, painted shields were slung at their backs, long swords were at their belts. Their burnished shirts of mail hung down upon their knees. In pairs they galloped by, and though every now and then one rose in his stirrups and gazed ahead and to either side, they appeared not to perceive the three strangers sitting silently and watching them. The host had almost passed when suddenly Aragorn stood up and called in a loud voice, "What news from the north, riders of Rohan?"
I'm getting chills. I'm getting chills. Yes, this is a moment.
Oh, man.
Following the trail, riding like the wind. I love this. Just the description of this scene is so vivid.
Such a wonderful description. So much amazing detail.
And the energy of this scene, the cries of the voices that they hear as they're coming, the riding like the wind that I mentioned, the horsemen sweeping by with the noise of thunder. This is such a scene, such a moment.
Yeah. Even Gimli could hear it.
Even Gimli could hear it.
Even Mr. Ears of Wood could hear them. And then we get this visual description. The men, mail-clad, swift, shining, fell and fair. Hear that alliteration, folks.
Oh,
that is powerful stuff.
Yes, it is.
Fell and fair to look upon. I love that. They're
long line, mail-clad men. Yeah.
They're handsome, but they're terrifying,
Yeah, absolutely.
Horses of great stature with these strong, glistening coats.
Big horses, yeah.
Long tails, braided manes. These are powerful beasts.
Braided manes. So clearly these people take great care of their horses. Yeah, I mean, that's not something that just happens naturally. So they clearly love their steeds. And then we get back to another description of the men. They're described as tall, long-limbed, kind of like the horses. Pale yellow hair, light helms, long braids, again, just like the horses. Stern and keen faces. I love this. The spears of ash. These guys are equipped. They are ready to go. Spears of ash, painted shields, long swords, and burnished mail shirts.
Yeah.
These guys are ready for action.
These guys are cavalry, man.
They really are. This is a full-blown heavy cavalry right here.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know, light helms. So they aren't wearing, plate armor here. So I guess this is more of a light cavalry. But
I don't know. I mean, the fact that they've got stirrups and they've got these long spears, that sounds to me more like heavy cavalry.
That does sound more like heavy cavalry.
I don't know. Somebody out there can keep us honest on that, but
that's true. I'm sure somebody will. Thank you in advance to whomever can clarify that. We'll put that in correction in a future episode.
I feel like it was stirrups that was sort of like
I think you're right.
The defining factor of heavy cavalry.
Yeah, because then you could put the spear down and drive, and you weren't going to get shoved out of your saddle.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And of course, they're riding by in pairs, so there is a formation. So maybe Legolas was able to see 77 lines of 2 and 1 extra. I don't know. Right. Whatever he counted, there was a lot. But they were riding by in pairs at this point, and really, interestingly, seemingly oblivious to the 3 hunters, huh?
Yeah, they were, until Aragorn.
I know.
Summoning all the chutzpah in the world.
Seriously.
Stands up and says, hey guys, what news?
Yeah. Part of me wonders, would it have been better to just let them go and keep going on foot? I mean, I'm glad they didn't, of course, for 1,000 reasons, but
Yeah, but
Gimli and Legolas are like, oh good, they're avoiding us.
Right, right. Oh, right. Because that was exactly what Gimli was saying. Like, well, we can't hide from them, so let's just see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Hiding is going pretty well, actually.
Yeah.
And then Aragorn has to poke that bear I love it.
Yeah. And then, of course, we get a tremendous reaction as a result of that. And that
Yes.
is where I'm going to pick up. With astonishing speed and skill, they checked their steeds, wheeled, and came charging round. Soon, the three companions found themselves in a ring of horsemen moving in a running circle, up the hill slope behind them and down, round and round them, and drawing ever inwards. Aragorn stood silent, and the other two sat without moving, wondering what way things would turn. Without a word or cry, suddenly the riders halted. A thicket of spears were pointed towards the strangers, and some of the horsemen had bows in hand, and their arrows were already fitted to the string. Then one rode forward, a tall man, taller than all the rest. From his helm as a crest a white horsetail flowed. He advanced until the point of his spear was within a foot of Aragorn's breast. Aragorn did not stir. "Who are you, and what are you doing in this land?" said the rider, using the common speech of the West, in manner and tone like to the speech of Boromir, man of Gondor. "I am called Strider," answered Aragorn. "I came out of the north. I am hunting orcs." The rider leaped from his horse. Giving his spear to another who rode up and dismounted at his side, he drew his sword and stood face to face with Aragorn, surveying him keenly and not without wonder. At length he spoke again. "At first I thought that you yourselves were orcs," he said, "but now I see that it is not so. Indeed, you know little of orcs if you go hunting them in this fashion. They were swift and well armed, and they were many. You would have changed from hunters to prey if ever you had overtaken them. There is something strange about you, Strider." He bent his clear, bright eyes again upon the ranger. "That is no name for a man that you give. And strange, too, is your raiment. Have you sprung out of the grass? How did you escape our sight? Are you Elvish folk?" "No," said Aragorn. "One only of us is an elf, Legolas from the woodland realm in distant Mirkwood. But we have passed through Lothlorien, and the gifts and favor of the lady go with us." The rider looked at them with renewed wonder, but his eyes hardened. "Then there is a lady in the Golden Wood, as old tales tell," he said. "Few escape her nets, they say. These are strange days. But if you have her favor, then you also are net weavers and sorcerers, maybe." He turned a cold glance suddenly upon Legolas and Gimli. "Why do you not speak, silent ones?" he demanded. Gimli rose and planted his feet firmly apart. His hand gripped the handle of his axe, and his dark eyes flashed. "Give me your name, Horsemaster, and I will give you mine, and more besides," he said. "As for that," said the rider, staring down at the dwarf, "the stranger should declare himself first. Yet I am named Éomer, son of Éamund, and am called the third Marshal of Riddermark." "Then, Éomer, son of Éamund, third Marshal of Riddermark, let Gimli the dwarf Glóin's son warn you against foolish words. You speak evil of that which is fair beyond the reach of your thought, and only little wit can excuse you." Éomer's eyes blazed, and the men of Rohan murmured angrily and closed in, advancing their spears. "I would cut off your head, beard and all, Master Dwarf, if it stood but a little higher from the ground," said Éomer. "He stands not alone," said Legolas, bending his bow and fitting an arrow with hands that moved quicker than sight. "You would die before your stroke fell." Éomer raised his sword, and things might have gone ill, but Aragorn sprang between them and raised his hand. "Your pardon, Éomer," he cried. "When you know more, you will understand why you have angered my companions. We intend no evil to Rohan, nor to any of its folk, neither to man nor to horse. Will you not hear our tale before you strike?" "I will," said Éomer, lowering his blade. "But wanderers in the Riddermark would be wise to be less haughty in these days of doubt. First tell me your right name." That is where we'll stop for a moment to discuss.
Man.
Yeah.
Such an iconic scene in the book.
It really is. It's so fun.
Heck of a scene in the movie, too, I gotta admit.
It is. It really is. They got this right. Yeah, the circle, the storming, that sense of you're really in danger here. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the rapid escalation of this, which we'll get to in a moment. But let's go back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
right away, you see how they wheel around. The riders wheel around, circle the hunters, and draw inwards until they stop. And again, you can see that scene so well.
They know what they're doing. This is a practiced move.
This is a practiced maneuver. This is something that they have drilled. And they stop, surrounding the three hunters, spears pointed, arrows notched.
Wow.
And then
Yeah.
a tall man advances with his spear pointed at Aragorn and asks, "Who are you, and why are you here?"
Who are you? What do you want?
Who are you?
Who? I was thinking, of course, Babylon 5, but I actually like the who better.
Who are you? What do you want?
Right. Who are you? What do you want? Mm-hmm. Wow. What a moment. So let's do a little sidebar here on Éomer's height, just briefly. We get this from Unfinished Tales. We pull this from the note on Númenórean linear measures. You all remember that, of course.
Of course.
Of course. In The Disaster of the Gladden Fields. Now, that's the same bit that we used to talk about the height of Galadriel and Celeborn, not to mention Elendil, who we learned was extraordinarily ridiculously tall, like over 8 foot, I think. I can't remember.
Yeah,
now.
something like that.
Exceedingly tall. Now, we don't get Éomer's height directly. We get a big enough clue to figure it out, along with a reason why he's taller than the others. The Rohirrim were generally shorter, for in their far-off ancestry they had been mingled with men of broader and heavier build. Éomer was said to have been tall, of like height with Aragorn, but he, with other descendants of King Thengel, were taller than the norm of Rohan, deriving this characteristic, together in some cases with darker hair, from Morwen, Thengel's wife, a lady of Gondor of high Númenórean descent.
There you go.
And that means he's about 6'4".
There you go. Like height with Aragorn. And of course, Legolas knew that when he saw him riding all that way away.
Uh-huh.
And had figured all this out a long time ago and is just laughing at the rest of us.
Yeah, I go, you guys are slow.
So, back to the text. Aragorn standing, spear pointed at him.
Less than a foot away from his chest.
Less than a foot away from his chest. Asks the question, "Who are you?" And Aragorn just musters his courage and says, "There are some who call me Tim."
I love it. I love it. Oh, man.
Or,
"Some who call me Tim." Fireballs all over the place.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. "A Grail!"
The Greer? He's got that
Very nice. Very nice R roll. I could never roll my R's like
totally
John
overdoes
Cleese.
it. It's beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah. No, what he says is, "I am called Strider
Yep.
from the north, and I'm hunting orcs." You know, just what you do.
Yeah.
Just hunting orcs. Here's my license. Warden, don't worry. I haven't tagged any yet.
I got a tag. Yeah.
You know, I'm good. So the tall man dismounts, hands off his spear while drawing his sword, and comes
Yeah,
closer.
exactly. It's not like the threat is over. It's just now instead of being run through with a spear, I might just kill you with my sword.
It's not like, "Okay, cool, you got your hunting license, you're good to go. Carry on, sir." No, it's like, hang on. Let's find out a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
He says something very interesting. He says, "At first I thought that you were orcs."
Yeah.
And this is fascinating. I mean, we will see this in just a couple of chapters when Treebeard thinks the same thing of Merry and Pippin.
Exactly. Yes.
But Treebeard had an excuse. Treebeard is an Ent, and he was looking at hobbits for the first time.
Yeah.
This is a man looking at another man.
Another man. And an elf and a dwarf, but he's presumably at least aware of them.
Right. So that's interesting. And maybe it's just because they know that if somebody's wandering around here and it's not one of our guys, it must be an orc.
Right. That's true. Who else is hanging around this part of Rohan? Right.
Right. Because it's just the kind of place where nobody's hanging around here. We saw in the last bit of the chapter that, that nobody's really wandering around here anymore.
Yeah.
And because nobody's out here except us and orcs, you would have regretted catching orcs if this is how you hunt here on foot. Yeah.
No doubt. But there is something strange about you, he says, and he asks, "Are they Elvish?" Not, "Are you Elvis?" I've heard Elvis is still around. Are you Elvis?
"Oh, yes, I am. Thank you very much. I'm called Strider. I came out of the north. I'm hunting orcs." I will never do an Elvis impression again.
No, please don't. All right. And Aragorn's like, no, we're not Elvish. Oh, well, mate, I mean, one of us is. We're a third Elvish, right?
Right. We're human. We're all human. Well, okay, one of us is an elf. Well, okay, and the other one is a dwarf. And by the way, I've got some elvish blood in me too, but you know what? No, we're normal. We're not elves. We're fine.
Yeah. And a little Maya blood too while we're at it. But yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. No, but we're just ordinary guys, you know?
Yeah, we're the same fonts as this guy, you know? So, no, we're not Elvish, but, we did go through Lothlorien. It's like, no, we're not elves, but we play them on TV, or, we stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night,
We're dressed as them, and
Right.
we talk like them, and one of us is one of them, and one of us is part one of them, and one of us is in love with one of them, but we're not elves.
We're not them. Does that ease the suspicions of this writer by any chance?
No, not one bit. He is very suspicious. He says, look, these are strange days. He's actually going to repeat this again in a minute.
Yes, he will.
And in fact, far from easing his suspicions, actually the mention of Lothlorien really raises his suspicions.
Yes, it does.
Maybe you're also net weavers and sorcerers. He's got this sort of inherent distrust of Lothlorien, and I think we've talked about that before on the show too.
We have. And then interestingly, he picks that time, which might not be the best time to then talk to the elf and the dwarf who happens to, have feelings for Galadriel. He turns to them and says, "Why aren't you talking? Who are you guys?"
Right.
And then Gimli, man, his classic line. I love it. It's just so Gimli. He has absolutely no fear.
No. It's so condescending.
Oh, yeah.
So condescending to call him Horsemaster.
Horsemaster.
Yeah.
And I'll give you mine and more besides. Yeah, there's a threat.
Man.
There's a threat. And, this all stems from his admiration for Galadriel.
Yeah. He's dissed his woman, man.
Yeah.
That's my elvish lady, Braid Boy. You don't talk ill of my elvish lady.
Braid Boy. That's right. No, you don't. And now, eventually, of course, Éomer does get feisty back. But I like this, that at first, his response is actually very courteous. He goes, really, you should be telling me who you are because you're the stranger, but I'll go ahead and tell you. I'm Éomer. I'm son of Éomen, and I'm the third marshal of the Rinnemark.
Yeah.
I love that. And at that point, really, Gimli ought to probably back off a little bit.
Probably. Instead of doubling down as he does.
That's right. He totally doubles down. I mean, he's like, it's one thing to say you don't know what you're talking about, because that's actually true. Éomer doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right. That would be fair. You don't know what you're talking about. Allow me to instruct you. But instead,
right,
he takes the low road.
You don't know what you're talking about, and you're a freaking idiot. Only little wit can excuse you.
Right.
This is brutal.
Right.
It is brutal.
Man.
And he doesn't just take him down in private. He takes him down in front of 104 of his men.
All of his men.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, not a good idea. Very, very ill-advised, Gimli.
Very, very ill-advised. And Éomer, he responds the way you would expect. Aragorn said they're true-hearted, but they're proud too. You don't call this guy out in front of all of his men, I will cut off your head. I would cut off your head.
Yeah. In other words, there's still going to be peace, but I'm going to insult you.
Right. I would cut off your head if I could reach it, shorty, basically is what he's saying.
Stunted person.
Stunted person.
Oh, man.
And then, it's about to spiral out of control, really.
It really is.
It's the Ron Burgundy meme, that escalated quickly.
That is, you're right. That escalated quickly.
Legolas notches an arrow, threatens Éomer.
Yeah.
This is getting bad.
Does Legolas think he has a chance of surviving this if he shoots Éomer? The answer got to be no.
I don't think he cares. That's not what this is about. Yeah, he's ready to die for his friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I love, by the way. This really strengthens their friendship, doesn't it?
It's a powerful fellowship moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Big time.
And then Aragorn shows incredible leadership.
Yes.
By getting in the middle of it. Like, look, all right, guys, hang on.
Yeah.
Éomer, we don't mean any harm. Can you just listen to us, all right? Just hear our tale before you strike.
Gimli means no harm. He's just a little short on charm.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Oh, man. We got to have another Princess Bride reference for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop rhyming and I mean it.
So, yeah, he asks him, right, hey, can you, before you kill us, do you want to hear our story?
Yeah.
I like Éomer's response. It's basically, okay, fine, but can you not be such jerks? Oh, and what's your real name?
Yeah.
It's not an unreasonable response.
I know you're not Strider, and I know you're not just out here hunting orcs. Well, you might be, but you're not just leisurely.
Yeah, because people don't do that. That's not a thing that's done.
This is not recreational hunting.
No, it is not.
Well, speaking of right names, I'm not going to let Éomer get introduced without doing a little word nerdery on his name, right?
Oh, of course not. I would have been disappointed if you did.
Good, I'm glad, because I'm here to deliver. Hammond and Skull point out that many of the Rohirric names we see, like Éowyn, Éomund, even Éothane, and the word éored feature the Old English word eo, which means warhorse or charger.
Okay.
Now, this is one Old English word for a horse. We're actually going to be talking about another one next episode. But I love this word for horse because eo is actually derived from the same Indo-European root as the Latin word equus, as in equine or equestrian.
Yeah.
Both Old English eo and Latin equus come from the same root, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Now, Hammond and Skull suggest that Eomer's name is derived from eo plus the Old English word mara or mera, meaning grand, excellent, or famous. And his father's name, Eamund, contains the element mund, meaning protector. Now, we'll talk about his sister's name another day.
Yes, we will. But this little sidebar on the name isn't the only thing we have here. No, it's time to get a little understanding of the military structure of Rohan. He is the marshal of the Riddermark, and we know that there's a specific number of riders with him. Now, in Unfinished Tales, in the Battle of the Fords of Isen, we get some information in the appendix of that that's really worth sharing. First, Marshal of the Mark, or Riddermark, was the highest military rank and the title of the king's lieutenants, originally 3, commanders of the royal forces of fully equipped and trained riders. The first marshal's ward was the capital, Edoras, and the adjacent king's lands, including Harrowdale. He commanded the riders of the muster of Edoras, drawn from this ward, and from some parts of the Westmark and Eastmark, for which Edoras was the most convenient place of assembly. The second and third marshals were assigned commands according to the needs of the time. In the beginning of the year 3019, the threat from Saruman was the most urgent, and the second marshal, that was the king's son Theodred, had command over the Westmark with his base at Helm's Deep. The third marshal, the king's nephew Eomer, had as his ward the Eastmark, with his base at his home Aldburg in the Fold.
That's right. However, in the days of Theoden, there was no man appointed to the office of first marshal. He came to the throne as a young man, at the age of 32, vigorous and of martial spirit, and a great horseman. If war came, he would himself command the muster of Edoras, but his kingdom was at peace for many years, and he rode with his knights and his muster only on exercises and in displays, though the shadow of Mordor reawakened grew ever greater from his childhood to his old age. In this peace, the riders and other armed men of the garrison of Edoras were governed by an officer of the rank of marshal. In the years 3012 to 3019, this was Elfhelm. When Theoden became, as it seemed, prematurely old, this situation continued, and there was no effective central command, a state of affairs encouraged by his counselor Grima.
Well, of course. Now, fortunately, when the war with Saruman began, Theodred, without orders, assumed general command. He summoned a muster of Edoras and drew away a large part of its riders under Elfhelm to strengthen the muster of Westfold and help it to resist the invasion.
And we saw what happened to him, unfortunately, a few episodes ago.
Yeah, indeed. Well, folks, we would be wise to be less haughty every day, and Bartleman's bag helps us do exactly that. So it's time to pull a question or two.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and boy, talk about putting us in our place. But even when the bag is done, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
That's right. Our wonderful listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you'll find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And we also have some really good discussions going on over on Reddit. You can find us there at r/Prancing Pony Pod.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us and consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
And if you want exclusive content, postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Sean and me, and episodes without digital ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Now, let's see what messages Bartleman has brought us. Sean?
All right, well, to start tonight, our friend Mick from Ireland wanted us to talk a little bit more about Mythmoot and Oxenmoot. And of course, we're happy to oblige.
Always.
Now, specifically, he asked us to opine on any things that we've seen at Tolkien Society events like Oxenmoot that we wish would be adopted at Signum events like Mythmoot, and vice versa.
Oh goodness, that's brutal. I feel like I'm going to be insulting the organizers of both. I don't. No, I mean, we're all new to this.
Yeah. I think it's just I think it's a celebration of all the things we love and what would we love to see more of.
Yeah. I can think of something that was at Oxenmoot that I would have liked to have seen at Mythmoot. I really thought the poetry reading was great. I would have loved to have seen people read their own poetry or read Tolkien's poetry. I mean, don't get me wrong, the poetry analysis that that Dr. Olson did, that Corey did, was fantastic, especially the one on Eminem. But
Yeah.
and I'm not
That was
suggesting
pretty
anybody
awesome.
should just get in there and do a rap battle, but I think a poetry reading would have been nice.
Yeah. I mean, they've done some open mic stuff at Mythmoot before. I know we both did poetry readings there one year, but
But with an online event like this, that made it a little
Oh,
different.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think they had anything quite like that.
yeah.
But they did have that reading of the Film Project, and anybody who wanted
Yeah.
to could take part in that. That was a little different because it was, you're reading the script.
Yeah.
But that was fun too.
I love how much the art show is a part of Oxenmoot.
Yes.
And I know that's something that's near and dear to Mick's heart, because he actually had some art that was showing at the art show.
Yeah, he did.
And I love that that's a big part of Oxenmoot. It seems like it's a big part of all the Tolkien Society events that I've been to.
It is.
Yeah. While there's certainly been some amazing art on display at Mythmoot when I've been there in the past, it's I always remember it being kind of a big event at Oxenmoot. And I love that.
It is a much bigger event at Oxenmoot's. Well, I remember, for instance, at Mythmoot 5 when we went, I remember Emily Austin's work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just being enamored by that. But
Yeah.
there weren't a lot of others, or at least I don't recall that there were a lot of others. I may be remembering it completely wrong. But in comparison to Oxenmoot and Tolkien 19, which is not fair to compare it to,
Right.
those art shows were significantly larger. And yeah, I would like to see something like that.
Yeah.
What else do we have that maybe we could see one borrowing from the other?
I don't know. I feel like both of them have so much their own character, don't they? I mean,
They really do.
they both have a lot of the same stuff. They both have incredible talks,
Oh, yeah.
fantastic keynote speakers.
Social events like pub trivia and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, granted, both of them had the same winners, but
Yes, they did. Us. And our amazing team of listeners.
that's
who joined
right.
us.
And our amazing team of people who joined us at both. Yeah.
They've both got, things like costume contests and stuff like that.
True.
And I think that's cool. I feel like Mythmoot has a lot of really cool creative stuff. They've got a lot of good workshops and things like that.
I think Oxenmoot did, but we just didn't get to be
Maybe
a
we
part
just
of
didn't
it.
do some of that. Yeah, maybe that was it.
I think a lot of it was at times that were inconvenient for me, at least on the West Coast.
Yeah.
They did such a fantastic job of really accommodating the time zones, but it was
Yeah.
pretty hard to do everything you wanted to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking back to in-person Mythmoots, and I know they always have things like the Room of Requirement and stuff like
Yes.
that's really
Yeah.
cool, fun, creative spaces. But
I don't know that anything's missing from either one.
no, I agree. I feel like they both just kind of have the character of the groups that put them on. You've got
Right.
like the personality of Corey Olson is a big presence at Mythmoot. And then you saw the personality of Sean Gunner at Oxenmoot and that fantastic Enyalier reading he gave.
Oh,
You know?
man, that was
It's great.
fantastic.
It was.
Absolutely.
So I think they're both great in their own way.
Mhm.
I'm very happy to be able to attend both of them this year.
Yes.
Even though I had to do it remotely. The reality is just being in the United States, Mythmoot is always going to be closer for me. So I might be able to make it to more Mythmoots than Oxenmoots, but
True.
I really look forward to making my first in-person Oxenmoot. I think that's going to be fantastic.
Oh, and we're going to, have you seen, we'll have to link to this in our show notes, but have you seen the trailer that they put up for next year?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We should link to that to share that with folks. Yeah.
Folks, assuming that this is under control enough that international travel is possible, start saving your pennies because you're going to want to go to that.
Yeah. So yeah, both of them are great. Both of them
Yeah.
have their own character, and I would recommend both of them to anyone out there, or either one. If you can make it to either one, go. You won't be disappointed. It's just so fun to spend time with Tolkien fans.
If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
It is so choice.
It is so choice. Well said.
Well, I think we have time for one more. Do you have one more for us, Alan?
I do indeed. It actually comes from our research assistant, Marilyn. She says she's really interested to hear about the process voice actors go through in choosing and developing character voices. Given the huge cast of characters in the Legendarium, it must be a big challenge. What are some of the considerations? I expect you have a guideline, not to talk about yourselves, but if it isn't a rule, maybe you can be somewhat piratical and bend it a bit for us. I have to think I'm not the only one who's curious.
Oh, man. I think you should go first on this one, Alan. You are much more of a professional voiceover artist than I am, so I think you should go.
That might be a stretch. I have no idea what professional voice actors go through in selecting and developing character voices. I say that because even though I do voiceover professionally, I don't do character voices professionally. I do really a lot of corporate narration, web explainers, things like that.
Okay, well, that's fair.
Character voices I only do here. So I don't know what pros do when it comes to selecting and developing voices, but I know for me, there really are three big principles because of the context that these voices are being used in: distinctiveness, character matching, and where applicable, repeatability. The first one, I don't want my characters to all sound the same, especially the ones that appear with each other regularly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's one thing if Hama ends up sounding a little like Baragon. The two aren't even in the same season, let alone the same scene. But can't have my Gandalf and Aragorn sounding the same, or Denethor and Faramir. And then there's the character matching, where I read enough about the character to learn what sort of mannerisms they might have, creating those unique details that match up to the type of character that he or she is. Now, I have to play this up a bit because it's audio only, so my evil characters tend to be a little over the top, but also I'm not a professional, so there's that. I would also say that the third element, repeatability, I can do the physically demanding voices for characters like Ungoliant or Glaurung, but characters that appear regularly need to have voices that I can replicate easily and consistently. And really, that's why Aragorn is much less gravelly than he was when we first met him back in the common room at the Pony. It must have been the pipe tobacco at the time.
All right, I'm just going to take your answer and I'm just going to co-sign that, because that sounds like a very intelligent answer, like you know what you're doing, and I want to sound like I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to go with that answer. Let's do that. Honestly, the reality, you may not think of yourself as a professional, but you certainly sound like you know what you're doing. And not only when you do it, but also when you explain how you do it. So, kudos for that, man.
Well, thank you.
I could never break it down like that and explain it the way you've done. I mean, I probably do the same thing, but I could never have really articulated that,
That's fair.
And part of it is I don't think of myself as having that much range, and I feel like I just kind of have to work with what I have. I mean, the truth is, I only started reading in different character voices when my kids were born a few years ago. It was just something to have fun with bedtime reading.
Right.
And since then, I've developed a kind of a fondness for certain character types and certain characters, which obviously some listeners have heard some of my impressions of certain characters.
Yeah.
I think I kind of just have a few stock types in my head, and I kind of go for subtle variations on those. Yeah. I think that probably means I end up sacrificing distinctiveness for repeatability, because I feel like if I go too far out there with a new character voice, chances are it's going to gradually drift towards another voice that I can do more easily.
Totally natural.
Just because I haven't really trained my voice as well. I mean, remember that outtake we did where my Midwestern mom turned into the Lucky Charms leprechaun?
Yes, that was brilliant. That was so funny. Yeah.
It was hilarious in an outtake, but you don't want something like that happening when we're doing a real reading, right? So
no, of course not.
I tend to go with the voices that I know I can do. And so, it is kind of stock voices for me at my level. I mean, like I can give some examples, like my Beorn voice that I did in season 2. That was basically just a variation on the voice I gave to Hagrid from the Harry Potter books when I read those to my kids.
Fair. Yeah.
My Gandalf voice started out as an impression of Deckard Cain from the Diablo video game series.
Oh, I can hear that now. Yeah. Stay a while and listen. Yes.
Yeah, stay a while and listen. I used to just goof around with my wife.
Love Deckard Cain,
because we're big fans of that game series. I used to just goof around with that. And so that's kind of where my Gandalf started.
That's awesome.
Maybe a little bit of like Ian McKellen sprinkled in.
Yeah, hard not to. He inhabited that character in the films.
Yeah. And I do think that is something that I probably do more than I wish I did, is like lean a little too much towards voices I've heard in one of the adaptations. Not necessarily the Peter Jackson movies, but just, like there's some BBC voices that I really like. And
yeah.
But I try not to do that. I mean, some of them did come completely out of my head. Like my Sam Gamgee voice actually started as a voice that I did for Farmer Maggot one Tolkien reading day.
Oh, I remember that reading. Yeah.
And I did a really long Farmer Maggot passage. And then when I listened to that later on, I thought, like, I love this voice, but I felt like it wasn't old enough for Maggot. So I was like, well, I'm going to give it to Sam. And so I ended up doing that.
Oh, nicely done. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Now, my favorite voice, though, is my Gollum voice. I'm kind of fond of that one.
Yes.
And that one, believe it or not, is actually based on Tolkien's own Gollum voice. If you listen to the J.R.R. Tolkien audio collection.
Oh, uh-huh.
I based it on his voice, but I kind of tried to make it sound a lot more deranged.
Which is not bad.
So we'll see how long I can keep that up next season, but that's where that one came from.
Yeah. There are so many big voices coming up. I mean, Éomer today was one thing, but I still have to work on Saruman. Now, granted, I already have a Treebeard voice,
Yeah.
But I've got to work on Saruman and his voice. I mean, that is who he is. It is all about his voice.
That is his thing. That's his defining characteristic.
And I can't do Christopher Lee, so I'm not even going to bother, right? I mean, there are some things that you just don't try to emulate because,
No.
you know, it's not going to come off as a second best thing. It's going to come off as a 17th best thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I got to go a totally different direction for him. But, you know, you think of these iconic characters, even somebody like the Mouth of Sauron, you know,
Oh, man.
it's going to be so fun to do in a few years,
Yeah.
but I'm terrified of
yes.
having to figure out how to do those.
Well, you got some time on that one at least.
That's true. That's true. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Now, please be sure to join us again next week when Aragorn properly introduces himself.
Oh, does he ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get to see which one of his 14 different names he actually gives this time.
Or which 7 of his 14 names he gives. You're right.
Right. Now, folks, we want to take a moment to thank our patrons at the Círdan's contribution tier. James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Cameron in Nevada, and Ned from Connecticut. Thank you all so much for your support.
Absolutely. And we also want to thank the team that helps make this show better. That's research assistants Tanya Pleshkova and Julia Matthews, along with our Barliman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
This show would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates, so thank you all so much.
Yeah.
Now, be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your right name to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
Choose one of the 17, please.
That's right, yeah.
Barliman's a lot more reliable these days, but we do get a lot of mail. So we promise we'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
Now, as always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time,
Farewell, friends.